Good morning. Thanks for everybody that's here today. We wanted to do a little follow-up in our press conference from our council meeting. We've always promised a couple things I want to talk about before we move forward is today we will have an in-house interview with one of the firms that is being considered for the forensic audit. We have talked to them through Zoom meetings in the past, but this will be their first time at City Hall. We'll be going over some issues with them, trying to determine what the scope of a potential forensic audit will be. My goal is to have the two firms speak to the council at the October 5th meeting to give an overview of basically what their expertise in this area would tell us as far as a future audit. And then also I will be releasing the names of these two firms prior to that October the 5th meeting so that the citizens can take a look at the two firms themselves and do their own research. Once we have the meeting on October the 5th, I will then call for a vote on the forensic audit on the October 19th meeting. We won't take a vote the night that the two firms present. I want to give the council and the citizens of Columbus plenty of time to take in the information that those two firms give us on that night of October the 5th. Also, there have been a lot of questions about the vote last night that we took for the ARPA money and potential money to go to the employees. What I will say on that is that this money that we're going to be receiving from ARPA, and the reason that we're being very careful about how we determine how to spend it, is that this money could have a generational impact on Columbus. I've asked the council to look at these issues very seriously. It is, of my opinion, part of the reason that we're in this particular situation that we're in right now, as far as not being able to award raises as we had hoped, is because of decisions that have been made in the past. And I'm not just saying in the previous administration, I'm looking at the administrations prior to that. This is a serious time for serious minds, in my opinion. We cannot be making decisions on emotional thoughts. We can't be making decisions from comments that we see on Facebook. We owe it to the citizens and to our employees to make the kind of decisions that is going to have a long-term impact for them in a positive way. I was disappointed that we had it come back up on the docket yesterday. We had discussed in our prior meeting, and I pointed this out last night, that we were going to look seriously into how we could potentially use some of this money. It can't be for a raise because it's one-time money. It would be, you're not supposed to use the term bonus, I think, but it would be money that would be awarded to employees for the work that they did during the pandemic. Now, yes, there are other communities who are looking seriously at this, and I think we should too. I don't think we should hem ourselves in on a certain amount until we have a good understanding of what we can and cannot do, which is what we're in the process of doing. I'm not upset with any of the council members. I understand their passion for the employees. I have that same passion, and I think all the council members do. But when you're in a situation as we're in right now, you got to be looking at the long game and not just the short game. We are going to do everything we can to make sure, as I said last night, our employees are our most precious commodity for the city. To be able to run efficiently and effectively, we have got to have the best and the brightest working with us, and also that those that have a passion for the mission of the city. But as mayor, I will continue to push the idea that we've got to be making decisions by having the best information in front of us when we do this, and we need to be thinking long-term, not just short-term. So that's what I have to say on that matter now, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions about it. Let me just mention that we did go into executive session last night, and it was a personnel matter in the Public Works Department where the management of Public Works was asking to terminate an employee that was still in probationary period for not meeting the expectations of his job, and the council voted to approve that termination. So that's what we did in executive session last night. And I'll take any questions that the media has, and then I think we may have some questions that are coming online. I'll be happy to take those too.
You took 4 resignations from the police department last night. How does that affect the department? And looking forward to replacing these officers, do you anticipate getting a signing bonus in place to get these numbers back up?
Well, obviously a disappointment to have resignations in the police department. There are a lot of concerns that the citizens have and that I have of the police department that we're looking into right now. We are in the process of coming up with a plan and some ideas about how to move the police department forward in a positive manner. As far as signing bonuses and stuff, that would be premature for me to mention that. However, I will say I'm wearing a police pin, and one of the reasons I'm doing that is because that is one of the areas I've been most focused on since I became mayor, and we'll have more to say about that in the coming weeks.
Forensic audit, do y'all have any cost estimates on that now that y'all talked to both firms?
We have, not anything that I think would be helpful right now. I mean, I think it could be anywhere, I would say probably could be looking at from anything from $25,000 to well over $100,000, depending on the scope that we determine to go, how far we determine to go with it.
How does that compare to the regular annual audit that Watkins Ward and Stafford does?
As far as cost, it won't even be close probably, yeah. Anytime you do a forensic audit like this, and you're calling in professionals, and depending on the scope of it, and depending on what firm you choose to use, and level of expertise will have an impact on the cost. So it will be, what I plan to do is to make sure that the council and the citizens of Columbus know exactly what we're looking at and why, and what that potential cost will be, and go from there.
Okay, and as far as you're having conversations about scope, and I know that some of that is or conversations that you are having with them right now, but what can you share publicly about what the options would even be for that? I guess just as an educational aspect for the public of what this could be.
Well, I think if you look back at the comments that you've seen from the citizens over the years of areas where they've had concerns, that would dictate where some of this will go. When we've been talking with these firms, they've been looking at past concerns of citizens by going back and reading the newspaper, watching news clips over the past several years about where a lot of the concern areas have been. Obviously, where the embezzlement is one, but we're talking about looking at spending across the board in all the city departments. We're talking about areas of this where the city. It could be as much as looking into the audits of the CVB. It could be looking at any organization that we have contact with where money is spent from taxpayers' dollars. Now, having said that, and I mentioned the CVB, not that that's a particular area of focus. I've met with the director of the CVB and their accountant and told them that when we're looking at the scope of this, that theirs may be one that we look at, and they were happy to hear that. I mean, so that's not necessarily, anytime we're mentioning somebody like that, it's not necessarily in a negative light but it's just an area where there have been a lot of questions from citizens in the past. So it could be external policies that we've used like that with any group that we've had contracts with. I'm sure that they will be looking at the areas that people have had concerns with the fire department, with the amphitheater. All those things will be something that they will look at to tell us what the scope should look like. We don't want to go down rabbit holes of things. We're not trying to point a finger or accuse anybody of anything. We're just trying to get a clear understanding of the finances of the city and what we can put into place in the future to make sure we don't have these questions and concerns that we've been having for many years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Last question that I have, the building that you guys declared surplus last night, behind Zachary's, what is that process going to look like now? And somebody mentioned that that area had been used for event parking for the Trotter. What happens with that once it's sold?
Well, what we're doing with that is that's a building that has sat vacant for many years now. I think when the city acquired it, I think they used it for an event for a holiday, maybe Halloween or something, and nothing has been used since then. Our interest is to, there have been people in the community that have had interest in buying it and turning it into, one idea I've heard is like a breakfast shop for people to eat breakfast. And so our idea was to open it up for potential buyers to buy and to get it back on the tax rolls for income coming in. As far as the parking goes, I don't think that it's wise to own a facility, a piece of property like that strictly for parking. To me, that doesn't make sense. Anytime that we have an issue like that around parking, we'll look at all the areas. There's been talk about maybe readjusting the striping down there to add more parking. I would say that people need to walk more, and that we will take parking into consideration, but that's not the forefront of it.
I got one question on the forensic audit. Are you looking for criminal activity?
Are we specifically looking for criminal activity? No. If we uncover criminal activity, we will follow that lead. Does that make sense?
Yes,
does that
it.
answer?
And so do you know also?
Well, I mean, you could say that we're looking for criminal activity when it comes to where the issues were earlier, and making sure that everything has been uncovered from that time. But as far as we're not doing this to try to prove that there's criminal activity somewhere else. We're doing this to make sure that the city has everything in place to make sure we're the best stewards possible of the taxpayers' dollars, because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking at.
The last question regarding that, you may have already said it. How many years back will you go?
At least probably, we're looking at 7. Yeah, that's been the conversation so far. We have records going back that far. And so in talking to both firms, they've suggested that that's probably a good, time frame. Again, both of these firms have done forensic audits like this in the past. So a lot of what we're doing is going on their advice. We're just trying to give them a full scope of the city's situation and then let them lead us in the right direction on that.
And those results would be made public?
Yes, all results will be made public, and in fact, if the council votes to do a forensic audit, it will take their vote to be able to do it. I can't just say we're going to have one. I'm suggesting that we have one. From everything that I've learned since I've been mayor, I would say we definitely need to have a forensic audit. But again, what we're trying to determine is what that scope will be and what cost it will be to the citizens. We want to make sure we're doing this for the right reasons and that it's, at the end of the day, is to benefit the city and its citizens.
You got it? Zach, anything more? Well, thank you, Mayor. I think that's everything.